right, what's going on, everybody? I am the one, the only, the WOOKIE, joined here with the new cast of my new family.
Welcome.
Isn't that what they say when you get divorced? It's my new family.
I mean, divorced or like ignored, abused, neglected, punished, sure.
So many adjectives there. But we got Big Z.
Yep, that's me. Hey, Big Z here.
We got Zach.
How's it going, guys?
We got Ogre.
Hey, thanks for having me back.
Only this time. After this, I don't know.
Yep, you're cut off. You're cut off.
Yeah, no more. And we got
It was a
Cole.
pleasure while it lasted.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good run. And Cole. All right, tons of stuff to go over. There was a thing that happened this week, right? Or last week now, right?
Yep.
Yep. So it's a big thing. It happened a lot. Do you want to go over that first, or do you want to go? Are we going down the list?
I think we're going down the list.
We're going down the list. So we're going to start out with the unique of the week.
All right, Ogre is taking a break to start our segment for our still missing other castmate. Ogre can give him a hard time if he wants about that. So our unique of the week was actually kind of a throw out to you just find really cool stuff in the wild. Last week, Zach and me were playing at a local, sealed event. And at the end of it, we all got the little OP packs where you open the 3. And between the two of us, we opened 6 total cards, and we popped a unique, and it was the Sandman, unique Sandman in the Lyra faction. Pretty fun card just having Lyra in general, but this one is 4 hand cost, 4 reserve cost. A little higher than what most Lyras are running, but the stats on it are 4-3-0. So pretty much in line with what you'd expect for that hand cost and the reserve cost, because that's generally how the Sandman works. But here's the cool part. This is why it's our unique of the week. Just the fact that people are opening these things every day and they have fun stuff. So it has an arrow effect. So all the time that you play it, up to 1 target creature gains a sleep. You may have it gain 2 boosts. The really significant thing is that is the basic Sandman effect, but normal Sandman effect only has it from the hand play. So you're getting this effect times 2. So whether you're running a Lyra deck that is going for Festival, or you're just pushing someone that has a static effect like an Aloe Vera, just to get that extra stuff the next turn. But it has another effect. It has another arrow effect, which is resupply, which is absolutely gold, especially if you're running a Fen deck. I will never play Venka, but if you're playing a Venka, just having more cards available to you is solid. And this even has a 0 stat if you are somehow insane enough to go play Kibbles and lose games.
I wanted to mention that, actually, just before we go too much further on it. The thing that immediately jumped out to me about this card is that often we're going to find ourselves talking about Fen when we're talking about Lyra, because that's the competitive hero in pink, right? But this is a card with a 0 stat, which is how you stack Auric triggers. And also, the way that RX ability works is he pulls the top card off the deck and sends it into play directly, right?
Yeah.
So any hand abilities aren't evaluated because you didn't play it from your hand. But arrow abilities still trigger. All the arrow means is comes into play from anywhere, right?
Yep.
So this card may be uniquely good among some of the other things that we've seen. If you're wanting to run the gamble arc build.
I think that is what most impressed me with this card, is it is literally good for every single hero. And we're going to be talking about this a lot. Most of the way the decks are being built, when you see a good unique, it's actually only good for 1 hero. And I don't think you're ever going to use this, but heck, for why not? This card actually has a quick action as well. You can discard it from your reserve. You may have a target character other than it lose fleeting. So if you have something you really want to get fleeting off the board, you could do that too with it if you just don't have the mana and you're going for some kind of other need. But in general, this card is just value on value. That's just thrown out there. This is just one of the really cool things about Altered. You get to see these things that don't exist, and this is the only one. I looked for other Sandman. I literally can't find anything like this out there. So that's It's pretty cool.
And last week we ranted a little bit about some of the blue uniques. Obviously, we have feelings about how the algorithm treats blue versus how some of the other factions get treated in it. But
Yes.
I think this is a great example of a card where, like, if we were going to just say a good unique, right? A card that does something that you're not going to find elsewhere, that has a little bit more value maybe than its rare counterpart in the right circumstances, and something that's just going to generally like round a deck out, and you're always going to, like, you will never feel bad including this card over a common, and that is not true of all uniques,
especially Ismir uniques.
Yeah, because it's it's not just the common slot; it's also you're taking up a hero slot. Like, you can't have that third Sandman now. That you're not going to run into that. So this is a great baseline for if we were going to look for what is sort of the across the board good, not Ortis good, right? And not Ismir good, but just good.
yeah. Ismir good is it at least as good as the rare? So to get a slot in your deck, like, that's Ismir good.
So here's a question
like the rare
for you guys.
Yeah.
Z, I know you weren't big into other card games, but maybe the rest of the cast was. Why is blue, whenever there seems to be colors in a game, why is blue always the one causing trouble? In Magic, it's literally blue. In Keyforge, it was Logos, which is blue. It always seems to be blue seems to be the best. And I can't imagine that this is pure and utter coincidence at this point.
You've stumbled upon a conspiracy that I don't think we're allowed to talk about on air.
Oh, is that Oh, we signed that NDA? I'm sorry.
It's part of the Illuminati. Their colors are actually blue. With that, though, Ogre's segment for today is up next.
Okay, so obviously I'm not Dexter, right? I'm significantly
I'm out of here. I was told
significantly
you were
older. I'm not as good at card games, but I'm gonna just pretend to be him for a week because I have been thinking a lot about some of what we're going to talk about here in a bit. Some of the tournament footage that I watched, some of the tournaments that I participated in, and I've had a lot of opportunity, as you may have guessed, from how much we talk about watching like Waru plays and just kind of general grumblings about the high tier play that we've been spectating. But stepping away from grumbling about it and like looking at what I can take from it, there's something that I really wanted to put forward for the audience members who listen. This is not for your Z's. This is not for your Plukas. You guys already know. You can just tune me out for a second. But for everybody else, I want to talk about expedition planning is kind of what I'm calling it. And the sort of a big departure in Altered from other card games is the concept of permanence, right? And how that ties into your expedition planning day to day. So almost every card game on the market, you're going to find exceptions, but almost all of them, when you play a card to your board, it's there until your opponent interacts with it, right? You're going to spend resources, and then you're gonna play it, and it's gonna contribute to your board state, and it's gonna continue to do so until they remove it, or until you do something to remove it. It's not just gonna go away on its own. Yeah. Altered is fundamentally different. Outside of Waru and and the green decks and some of the pink decks, when you play a thing, each turn, you're going to benefit from what that thing does for that turn. I shouldn't say turn. I should say round. Each round in Altered is a mini game, right? Yeah. In Magic the Gathering, you're slowly chipping away at the opponent's hit points, right? Like it's a drawn out fight over the course of many rounds, where you're always taking what steps you can to minimize their board and eat away at their life, so that eventually you get it to 0 and you win. In Altered, every single round, you're competing in a new tug of war game to try to get your expedition to move forward one.
Oh, I like that. I like the tug of war part of that. That's a good.
So what I've seen and what I've started to notice as I play into sort of I live on the lower end of the ELO spectrum compared to some of the folks that are with us tonight. So I spend my time playing down there, and then I in tournaments wind up playing to much higher ELO and watching footage of much higher ELO players. And a key sort of difference between those players that stuck out to me this week is how they approach that aspect of Altered. What I find, and I'm gonna use Pluka and Sylvain and like our big time Waru players as my example of what the high level people are doing. I think because they play Waru, they get the edge on being trained to behave a certain way because Waru lets them bring in some of that other card game experience, right? Like you can actually build a board and you can lean into playing things that are going to affect your next turn, not just this turn, which means their formula is slightly different. But even them, if you watch some Pluka replays or some Sylvain replays, I've seen Z do it. Zach, I haven't gotten to watch play as much recently, but I'd be willing to bet if you go and find his replays, he's doing it too. They're watching what their opponent is doing from the start of the round, and you can see the moment when they realize, no matter how many cards they have in hand, no matter what they have in reserve, that if they continue to contribute to this round's tug of war, they're not going to move the ribbon, right? Yeah. They can't bring it back. What a player at my level will do is they will continue to play cards. They will just continue to play cards. Well past the moment where they should have been able to read the board state and say, okay, I can't pull this back my direction. They'll a high level ELO player will bait out splitting your energy across both sides of the tug of war instead of focusing on one expedition or the other. And then as soon as you fall for it, they'll spring the trap, right? And they will make you waste those resources. They'll bait out more than you should have played, and then they'll just back off because they know you don't throw good money after bad. Players like me and the people that are playing down in my end of the pool, it takes us longer to see that. And so for today's Why I Suck at Altered, what I want to like really drive home and get people to start thinking about is each and every noon, right? When you're making your decisions about where you're going to put your tokens, when you're looking at what's in the other guy's reserve, when you're looking at your hand and you're making your mana decisions and everything else, take a minute, right? BGA is going to give you plenty of time. That your feeling is going to be to rush through this, right? Because everybody plays really fast on BGA. You're going to feel pressured to click that button and get on the move. But just take a minute. Look at the numbers, right? Look at the expedition spacing. See if there's a place where you feel confident with what you have in your hand and on the board, and knowing what your opponent can do, even if you don't have like 100% knowledge on their hand. Decide then if it's a turn that you're like tooth and nail fighting for, if you feel like you need to be the player that's going to bait out extra resources from your opponent, and then just take a turn off, take a setup turn, play your meadow, play your carrier, play your haven, do whatever you need to do, but don't give it to them for free either, right? Because that's equally bad. Yeah. If you just slam whatever it is that you're going to do for your buildup right away, then your opponent now gets free reign to save their resources.
Yeah, I was gonna say they can react to that, right?
Yeah, so it's. I'm not saying it's easy, right? We're all here to learn and get better, and it's. I'm right there with you, people. Like it's gonna take us time, but please, 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 when you look and you see in the reserve that they've got 2 cards over there, and then you look in your hand, and all of their numbers are bigger than all of your numbers.
Yep.
Don't play the card.
Yep.
Wait until your next turn. Wait until your circumstances change. Give yourself the out, right? Because resources are huge. They're huge.
Yeah, cards are valuable.
You have to learn like when to commit and when not to commit, because even though it sometimes doesn't feel like it, because as you watch your expeditions get further and further away from theirs, you can absolutely still pull it back if you get ahead on the resource game, right? They may be 3 spaces away and you may be 5 spaces away. But if you're killing them on hand advantage, you've got plenty in your reserve, you've got the tools that you need. In the late game, if they were burning hot to get to that point where they are ahead of you, now's your chance, right? But if you're just wasting your resources in a fight that you were never going to win in the first place, you don't get the opportunity to make that comeback. So just take a minute, plan out your day. Plan your day, look at your numbers. If you're playing into Waru, don't count all your cards, right? Because he's going to play the Robin Hood every time, and you're not going to get to play everything. So add the 1 to the cost, look at what you can commit, and then start clicking buttons. I guarantee you, if you take that extra time up front, you will start winning more games.
And you'll get faster.
Yeah, very, very good advice, but there is one addendum to that. And that's sometimes I just don't want to do math. And
don't play in arena on those days.
All right.
I am fine tanking my elo a little bit. It's all just internet points right now. If I don't want to do math for a game, but
Paul's going to take care of our next week's why I suck at Altered.
Join us for the math episode.
If the youngin one is.
Ogre, I found that interesting that you said like taking other card experience, because like with certain factions, with certain of the heroes like Waru, like Tasia, or some of the Muna ones where they get anchored or asleep, right? Like you are building a board for next turn, and that was kind of interesting that you said that. Like that was well put. Well put.
Thank you. I've been thinking about it a lot because I, like all of us, am trying to figure out how do I play this game, and how do I. It became like glaringly obvious over the course of the last. Why did I just forget the name of our tournament? What's our tournament called? Ace. The last Ace. Watching other people play and playing myself. Like when I say I got decimated, it's not a strong enough phrase. And it really, like, I spent a lot of time just thinking about my play and what I did and what I should have done, could have done. And then I spent the rest of that tournament and some time after watching other footage just to see, like, okay, they're playing Waru, whatever, right? They're still doing things that I wasn't doing that could have given me that little extra I needed, right? Maybe I still don't take it at the end of the day, but it doesn't matter because I still need to try to get better wherever I can to close that gap a little bit so that when there are those openings to exploit, I can see them, recognize them, and take advantage of them.
Well, the fact that you can watch people's replays the way you can, yes, it's annoying to click through that, but like that is literally gold as far as the amount you can improve. Especially if you go back and watch your own games. Like just watching the games that you lost that were close, there's something in that game that probably you did wrong. And just being able to learn from your mistakes, like that's actually like a really, really cool thing.
The only learning
just
aspect.
Let it auto play as well. You don't have to click through.
How lessons after class, because
I got you.
I haven't figured that out.
Yep.
I was gonna say the only thing that I don't like about the replays is that you can't see what the hands are, and so you can't see exactly all the thought processes that are going through, like why is this player playing this card as opposed to what else did they have in their hand, right? So, like, yes, it is a very good learning experience, like you said, especially your own matches, but there is still that missing aspect, I think, as far as the replays are concerned, to see the full picture. But granted, you can see what's being played.
You can go through each player's perspective, and that way you can see both hands. But I mean, obviously, it'd be better if you could just, from a studying the game perspective, if I could just say, hey, I want a full view. I want a full table view. I want to know what each of these players was thinking when they committed these resources. Yeah, that'd be incredible.
Yeah. Another great thing you said was just kind of how people play on BGA. And, it's a lot quicker. And I think there is a different mentality on BGA right now. So I'm kind of interested when we get to go to more in-person tournaments, how we see the play being a little different. I get my ass kicked repeatedly in arena, but I do fine in person.
Yeah, it's some of that too. People perform differently when they're in front of other people. Just period. Like any game I've ever played ever, there's a difference between how people do in a digital environment where they're not like face to face looking at somebody and interacting with them. Which sounds silly, right? Like the cards don't change, the decks don't change, but there is that element of, I don't want to say reading a person, right? Because like in these kinds of games, they're going to make the decision they're going to make. But a little bit, right? Like when they're sitting on that big hand and you can kind of see him over there like, oh, okay, he definitely has the charge and he's waiting to play it. I'm going to let him have this one. I'm going to come in next turn. Like, there's a little bit of that to contend with. I will say, playing into the Z's live and in person, the speed of play, not much different in person versus on BGA. They're moving.
Gotta keep getting your toes, Ogre.
I'm
gonna get there. I'm eventually, right? That's what they say.
Yeah, it does take. I mean, takes lots of gameplay.
I'm gonna give you a little bit of not advice, but a little light at the end of the tunnel. There's a player that I've played with for many, many, many years. About 5 of them now. You're talking about a guy who is at the bottom end of every bracket, couldn't figure out why things weren't quite going his way a lot of the time. And he's the reason Archon's Corner exists. Just gonna flat out say it. Hi, JR. He's now one of your top players. Like, it took 5 years, but he's there, right? Like, consistently finishing in the top, in top brackets, consistently getting to top 8s, consistently getting there. This is not a Magic game. This is a very different game from a lot of card games out there, right? Like, it's more of a race as opposed to a fight. And there's a lot of people who want to do the opposite because that's where Magic has trained us to do that. Keep at it. You'll get in there, kid.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, but what do we got going on?
Makes me feel young, too.
Hey, if I can give the pep talk, I'll give the pep talk. I'm a good pep talker. That's about it. After that, it's all downhill from there on out.
I was gonna say, usually I get pretty depressed when you talk, but that's it's usually
Well, this is a new age, man.
Like, I was gonna say, this is the new Wookiee.
This is the new Wookiee, the fresh Wookiee,
that old relationship,
the hip and the up and coming Wookiee. Because normally,
I don't know about hip.
Well, I'm hipper than most. I'm gonna say that right off the bat.
There you go.
I know. Hopefully on this show, when I make my pop culture references, someone will get it. I'm not holding my breath, but there's the hope,
See, this is what happens when you're in a loving family and in a loving relationship, right? Like, you get appreciated by the people.
Yeah, over here, we'll pretend to get them.
Yeah. And the chuckles, they're real, I swear. Anyway.
I'm immediately reminded of the moment that we had with Dexter 2 or 3 weeks ago or whatever with the whole Napoleon Dynamite conversation.
Yeah,
when I had I had to come face to face with my mortality yet again. Like,
what, the fact that he looks exactly like Napoleon Dynamite?
The fact that he had no idea
who
what it was.
And he was like, why do I look like this person?
Listen, I'm not even like, I'm not the guy that's watched Napoleon Dynamite 100 times, right? I know what it is. I've seen it. I laughed a little bit, but it's not like my movie. No. But I know what it is, right?
Yeah, same.
Having somebody say,
"What is that?"
This is going to happen a lot. I realize it, like, as part of getting older, so you have to get used to kids thinking that you're ridiculous and you don't know anything. But, like, man, it was.
I work in education, and there are kids that don't know what the Matrix is. How does that feel?
Well, when you get to 2 Dexters, right? Like, you're getting old, so like 2+ is a problem.
Time.
I'm not letting it go. Dexter will be a unit of measurement in this channel period. Like,
yep. All right.
I
The
think it's
Matrix
time.
is more Dexter's than freaking the other movie, so
Yeah.
It's
That
Dexter and a
is
half.
kind of true. It depends on which matrix you're going from. However, we need to get to deck construction, and what are we doing? A top-bottom heroes, Z?
So we got a lot to talk about. That's really some cool stuff that happened last week. So I was going to do top and bottom hero in each house from my perspective. Again, the game is super new, so there are some things that can change. And I'm not saying like I'm an authority in this, but first of all, this is one of the segments we talk about we would have each week. So for the future, I'm going to be talking about some stuff like picking your hero initially when you're making your deck, identifying like their goals of that hero when you're making it. We'll talk about the importance of just having removal in your decks. I'll have a whole thing about commons and rare choices because a lot of what is going to be in the deck building, like uniques are uniques. If you find them, great. If you don't have them, you can still make a good deck without them. So common and rare choices, basically the whole nuts of deck construction. And then at some point, I'm going to get into unique hunting and like what that means after I've talked about the rest of that. But for today, because it's quick and easy and it's kind of like a out there information because we've seen a lot of stuff happen in the elo and the arena. I'm going to talk about what I view as the top hero for each house right now. So first off, I'm just going in alpha. Axiom Brown. I've got Traced as their top hero. In my opinion, my view, by quite a bit. I just really like how it's
Just
plays.
real quick, for those people who don't know, how many heroes are in each faction?
There are 3 heroes right now in each faction, and it looks like we're just going to have those 3 heroes for quite a while. In the AMA, I think they talked about that, but we'll cover that in a little bit. But right now there are 18 total heroes, 3 per faction. In Bravos, red faction, I have my top hero. It was actually pretty close for this one, but I do have my top hero as Kojo. I just really like having the little fire dog every other turn, especially if you.
It's a cheetah.
Is it a cheetah?
It is a cheetah. We discussed that last week, and it's a dog.
I'm calling this a fire dog. It's forever going to be a fire dog.
Oh my gosh!
It's a cat. How do you mistake this for a dog?
It doesn't matter. Again, remember he talked last week about the art from that previous game that he played.
Right. Yeah, sorry.
It's going to be a dog,
right, y'all
no matter what.
Me. I'm actually watching a game with one in it right now. Watching Belshazzar play, but yeah, sure, whatever. The fire dog comes out every other turn, and just having that extra body on the board is actually way more important to me than the boost effect that the other hero that's actually pretty close to. So I've leaned heavily into him being the top hero for Bravos. Then we have Lyra or Lyra, depending on how y'all want to say that, from the Pink House. I have Finn as their top hero by like a large ass gap. It's like Finn's way up here, and then there's the other 2, and one of those is actually the basement hero of the whole set, which we'll talk about some other time. For Muna, I kind of the same thing, but not with the same reward. I have Tasia as the top hero. Like it's pretty much a guaranteed plus every round, especially with the whole anchor thing there. That's just really, really good in theory. Ortis, I have the top heroes. Who do you think I have the top hero as?
Surely it's Gulrang and Toxin, right?
I was going to say, Gulrang is the only way to go in Ortis.
Oh yeah, no. It's obviously Waru. Waru is the top hero for blue. Izmir is where we can talk, guys. So like, I'm torn because like I personally have a Faunus as the top. But Lindui has done pretty well, but I have no experience playing it. What are y'all's thoughts here? Because I have a Faunus there that's the spell slinger. Lots of fun things you can do with that, but
I'm going to say, playing with my Roar deck a couple weeks ago, I ran into 1 or 2 really good Faunus in Arena, and it smoked. It beat the brakes off me. It beat me so bad, like I was stunned, and it like I would put that by if it's a good deck, right? And obviously, like we're talking just about like good decks at this point.
Yes.
I haven't seen too many Lindui or whatever, but like Faunus, I would definitely put that. Yeah, the sacrifice. Right?
So I think it's something that we should probably mention here. Somebody's going to step on me as soon as I say this, but I feel like of the Izmir heroes, because of their card pool and because of sort of how the tournament environment has been going, they're the only faction in the game right now where I think it might be a toss-up between the three of them.
That was going to be my final comment. Originally, I was going to do top to bottom and like their differences, but I didn't want to spend all that time. But I do think Izmir has by far the best, as far as if you wanted to talk about card game design. Their three heroes are all very uniquely different. They have very different roles, and I think they are by far the most competitively balanced among the three.
100%. Yeah, I think easily. I can see a good player on any of these giving people a hard time. Like the card pool might not be there yet to give them the tools they really need to cut through some of what we're seeing, like at the very tippy top. But they're getting right up there next to it, right? Like there's not that much sacrifice support, and we had at the large French tournament.
Yep.
We had a Lindaway make it all the way up there through a field of killers. So like there's some sauce there that still needs explored.
And I think that's a testament to the player that plays the deck.
Well, and uniques. Like that's one of the things. That's why I kind of have unique hunting in the deck construction area that we'll talk about eventually. The uniques made Lindaway there. So there are some decks by design that you are going to need like to actually do some hunting for the uniques if you want it to fire at the highest level. And I think that's where I have Lindy right now. But I personally lean toward Afanis. If Robin Hood wasn't a bureaucrat, I think Afanis would be a regularly discussed top option. But you can't spell sling when your stuff costs double because you're trying to spend one on everything.
He gets hurt pretty hard in the current environment, but I think I'm with you. I think if you forced me to choose one, it would be him today.
Yeah.
It is interesting, like, not to steal later, we're going to discuss this more, but like from that big, large French tournament, the Afanis and Senka was the more favored Izmir hero, with Lindaway and Ma being the least favored by like almost, third. So that it kind of goes with what we're thinking too, as far as like how many players played that. So
I think Lindy is also like, when you talk about a hard hero to play well, the resource decisions to do that hero justice are crazy.
Because it's super weird, and like what you're doing, you have to really think about like what is on the board and not on the board at different times. It's an interesting hero to navigate.
Yeah, I think Akesha is underrated or undervalued by new players. A lot of them, when they first get into the game, don't really understand why you would want the After You ability. But watching someone understand that when they get to know the game more and use it often, it is very useful, especially because you don't have to do it right away. Which is another thing people
one of my
do when
favorite,
they first learn.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is to spycraft their reserve, then next turn After You. It's just it's such a prick move. It's like, okay, then you're gonna have no mana, and then I'm gonna take whatever lane I want. Akesha is pretty viable.
Yeah,
it's real close to the other two.
We fell all the way off down the Izmir rabbit hole there.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun to talk about, and that's the main reason why we decided just to do the top house. So, and then right now, I do have where there are 18 heroes. I do have a clear number one hero at the moment in the current environment, which may change, which we'll talk about shortly. I have that as Waru, hands down. Zach and me track every game we play as far as our little tracking sheet when we're playing against people.
Hold on, I have to interrupt you for just a second. I can't believe that you just completely left Axiom off the list.
I started with
he started with Axiom.
Bro,
he said
I thought we started with Bravos.
No, I started with Traced.
I think you just like blanked out there for about 30 seconds.
Okay.
I even said Brown. Like,
apologies for everything. Then I'm just
our eyes glossed over when we heard Fire Dog again.
Yeah,
I thought we started this conversation in red. I'm the crazy one.
But yeah, Zach and me track all of our games in our little thing. It's super manual, pleb style. We type, put a 1, 2, 3, whatever. And at the moment, the only deck, and I play all kinds of decks, so I play all kinds of heroes. Most of the ones we named in the top, I played every single one of those heroes. And the only matchup we have where we have a losing win percentage against is Waru. We've only won 33% of our games against opposing Warus, and that's me playing all of these decks. Everyone else, we have a positive win record, and there are many heroes that have never beat us. That's a shout out to you, Kibbles. And probably whatever the Archon, Vinka. There's a bunch. They suck.
Trace hasn't beat Waru.
Well, that just Waru. Trace has at least one game somewhere.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
But yes, Waru we have as the number one hero in the current meta, which is why our meta laner is playing Waru at the moment. So that wraps up my deck construct talk this week. I might put a poll at some point as far as what we would go into next week. But I think I'm leaning towards like breaking down the commons and rares and like how to go about first building the deck and then just choosing enough action and looking at those for next
Or you
week.
could do what I'm doing and net deck.
People like this are a menace to decent society.
Are you ready for something new and hot?
You're in the corner. Here we go.
So he phrased it, and he said, the design team, and I believe he reiterated that he felt that way as well. They called Robin Hood a little bit of a design mistake. Specifically, didn't say a complete and total failure of design. Didn't say any of the lots of hyperbole has been slung around lately, but did say it was a little bit of a failure in design. And I think specifically said that they had been watching. They wanted to see what was going to happen in the big tournaments so that they could get some more sort of impressions as to what was going on. But as you can imagine, at an AMA, immediately everybody asked, well, what are you going to do about it? What's the plan? Are you going to do this? Are you going to remove bureaucrat? Are you going to whatever? And all that he would say is that he felt fairly sure that the designers already had an idea of what they might like to do, but that they still weren't committed to anything. But that wasn't a thing that he could comment on because, frankly, it just wasn't in his wheelhouse. Right?
When they mentioned that they were going to pay close attention to the big event that was about to come, which now the time of hearing this has already happened. So now,
and I think a good note about what he said specifically is that Robin Hood makes it no fun for other players, and that is a big issue. So, I mean, the AMA is still on the Altered YouTube. If you want to go watch it.
Please do. Don't take anything that we say as gospel. Watch it for yourself.
I'm in the camp that I think he's going to be changed, and that was as close to a confirmation of changes coming to Robin Hood as you're going to get until they decide.
I am in the camp that they're going to drop bureaucrat from Robin Hood. It's a phygital game, so you can order new copies that won't say that word. They can say some other word. I think that is the cleanest change and would immediately make it so there are much more evenly competitive fields out there. And Waru would still be a top deck. It would still be in that number of top decks.
Yeah, it just expands the field a little bit.
It just wouldn't be auto beating Traced.
Yeah. I don't think I feel. I'm not even willing to venture a guess as to what they are going to do because, frankly, we're at uncharted territory in terms of what their powers are here. There's just a lot of flexibility with how they could approach a change here. One thing that we've seen a lot is people speculating we know, the next set's coming in January. Maybe there's something in there. And I want to say it again. That set was already design complete and going through final checklist items so that it could be printed and do everything that it needs to do well before I think they were fully aware of how large the issue was. There's nothing in it that's going to solve this problem.
I think the whole phygital part actually makes it much easier to change and address errata more than any other game that's ever existed because BGA's cards, the cards in your deck manager, and everything that you order in the print of demand, which we all hope out to be soon-ish, can immediately have the changes there, right? So I think that could be big.
I haven't seen anybody talk about it, and it obviously it can be how do I phrase this? There is a card game that exists, and I don't want to go like people feel strongly about it, so I don't want to go like too off the deep end on it or anything. But one of the really cool things that I think that they did that I had never seen in a card game before is that when they hit a couple of unhealthy metas, an experiment that they decided to do to try to fix it, to like basically just increase representation, right?
Yeah.
They released a digital only card that all of their players could print and proxy in legal tournament deck lists that directly addressed whatever the meta issue was. So they gave themselves the ability to insert single
Cards, yeah.
1 to 5 cards, whatever, that they could give access to all their players, that they then allowed them to proxy and bring to events to try to like increase health, and it worked. To the extent to which it worked can be debated, I guess, but it worked. Representation increased. Altered, in my opinion, is an environment where they could nail that, right?
Mhm.
As soon as print and play exists, I don't think they're ever going to allow proxies at tournaments because there's a slippery slope with how the rest of the game works, but whatever. The ability to create a single card here or there and inject it into live play is so much easier for them than for anybody else that's on the market. Will they do it? I don't know. There's only one card game in existence that I've ever heard about doing it, so probably not. But it's a thing they could do that other
Yeah.
people can't,
Yeah.
and I think that's awesome.
They have a lot of options that no one else has ever had.
Yeah. So wait for the announcement. Something will be coming, I'm sure. The AMA, I guess there was more to the AMA than just Robin Hood. I'll try to just quickly come off the top with what I remember. They will be at PAX Unplugged. I tried to get some info out of Loki about what the events would be, and he's very good at being like his namesake. Just confirmed that it'll be a lot of fun. No word on what kind of events, but the Alter team usually does something really unique and awesome. At the Angers, they were doing, or Ludo Trotter, wherever it was, they were doing boss battle. I know they're doing that tomorrow at the GG tournament. They're doing the boss battle and then some other stuff. Loki's favorite card from the new set was the Ice Queen, which isn't a card that's revealed, but that's all the information they would give me. And
I knew Elsa was going to be in the set.
gotta have Elsa. Ogre, was there anything else? I mean, a lot of it was just stuff that I kind of already knew and is kind of already out there, so I'm not sure.
I feel like a lot of the conversation was dominated by Waru and Robin Hood talk, big tournament talk, talking about it sort of. I'm about to say this. I can't remember. The new set was already announced before the AMA, right? Like they specifically discussed, because milk kept being discussed. So some of that was talked about. And that's kind of it. Like
there were some technical issues, so it kind of like
it dropped out in the middle.
Yeah. So if you're looking for it, it's broken into 2 on their YouTube, but you can go watch it. It's super quick watch. You'll learn some good stuff. As for the tournament, I was just gonna read real quick the breakdown and the interesting part to me, and then probably Zach and Z talk about the actual nerdy stuff about that, because I'm not as smart with meta as them. The graph that they put out and the tournament breakdown on the altered.gg website is amazing. The really big takeaway for me as a Muna player was the fact that Tasia was the most played hero in the entire tournament at 18.6%. But when you scroll down to the top 128, she drops down to 9.4% in the top 128. And to give you perspective, overall, Waru and Mac were 7.7%. top 128, they jump up to 18.8%. Sigismar jumps up to 30%. And then there's some other stuff in there that you can see. But yeah, the main story was the final was Waru versus Waru. And the top had 8 Warus out of 16. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, what are your thoughts? One thing I will say that coming from a competitive like video game world, personally, different countries usually play games differently, and I don't know if that's the same with TCGs. I'm a little newer in the competitive side of that, but I'm wondering if there will be a different meta that will start to shape up here in North America compared to what we just saw in France.
Almost assuredly.
What do you guys think?
There will be more Warus here.
Oh no.
Real quick before we roll into Waru Town, from like our number people, I do think we should. It bears discussing that like it surprised the heck out of me. Tasia had nearly 20% of the field and had 0 conversion into the top 16.
That didn't surprise me, but that was from personal experience.
Yep. The highest Muna placed, and I think it was Rin or was it Tasia, was 33rd. That was the highest, unless that was Bravos, but
Yeah,
either
it was
way.
33rd.
So they broke into the top 36, but like
it was the lowest place.
But even the
overall.
top 28 is low. Like there's only 9% of the add this together. It's 10.2% green in the top 128 out of coming in at 20%. So half of them were straight up eliminated before the 128 cut.
Yep.
That's crazy.
I mean, because obviously like it is a little bit more of a inconsistent deck, but I have played some scary anchor decks from French players like in BGA before I like tanked my elite rating and fell way down.
Because you don't play Ortis, so they're scary to you.
Well, like on the flip side of this, if you're going to talk numbers of like conversion, right? Like Ortis as a house, blue entered at 26.3% of the tournament. And again, this tournament had 1,000 players. I know some of our old game folks will be listening to this. 1,000 players against this. What started as a pop-up event in France grew to be 1,000 people. But so Ortis has the 26% entering the tournament. Top 28, if I add all this stuff up, was 50% Ortis. So I'll say that one more time. 26% of the total entering, 50% of the top 28. That is insane conversion ratio. And then half. Well, there 8 Waru was in the top 8, and then there was 1 Siggy, I think. There was no gold ring. Yeah, 2 Siggy. So 10 out of 16 of the top 16 were also Ortis. Ortis stood up in a big way. When you're saying like a difference between like North American style versus like Europe, I think the exact same thing would kind of happen, except just in the US players, like Constructed's more meta driven, right? So I actually going into this event from a like spectator, I was expecting to see way more Waru enter the event initially than did. Because if this was like in US card gaming, it's pretty much the standard for all constructed games. So like there's a whole bunch of people that are chasing the actual meta. Someone is chasing whatever they think beats that, and then everyone else is playing for fun, and that's normally like 20% most.
Yeah, I think in North America though we're gonna see a underdog maybe in Fen. I think we have a lot of Fen players, a lot of people who love Fen.
Well, and that's the thing that's the anti-meta I was talking about. So like I would expect like these numbers to kind of be like crazy switch. Like if this was a US event hitting 1,000, like I think the Waru and Mac percentage would be 20%, and the Tasia would be 7 versus like what it is here.
All right, then, I'm gonna try to talk again, and we'll see how this goes. I don't know what, like my internet kind of just took a dive, but I got most of what we recorded or what you guys recorded, so hopefully it comes out. I'll do a little magic, and we'll see what happens. But typically, so I've played card games a long time. Right, like I'm a card game player. I started way back when with Star Wars CCG. If any of you guys remember that, most of you should.
I have some behind me right now.
Yep, that's where I started. I think I was like 7 or 8 years old. Typically what happens so Europe, and don't take this the wrong way if there's any Europeans out there. I know there's quite a number of you.
There's plenty.
Europe tends to be more fun-driven, where the US tends to be more meta and cutthroat driven. So if you're telling me Waru is at the top of the top, right? Like he's at the top of the hill, you're going to see a bucket of it.
Yep.
Because people are going to come there and they're going to come to win. They're not coming to have a good time and maybe go have some beers afterwards. They're there
I disagree with part of that. I think there's just more people that tie having a good time with winning a bunch of games in our culture here.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. Yeah, it makes sense. And it does relate. I was at the Star Wars PQ, and it was a ton of meta in the top.
Yeah.
So I mean, those people were there to win and were very serious. So that checks out.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we saw. I mean, Keyforge you can't make theory decks in Keyforge, but Keyforge was the same kind of thing. Like whatever was winning the most games, that's the type of decks you saw at every event. You just didn't get to make your deck.
Yeah, I think it'll be. One thing that I think is very interesting about that, right? Up until now, we haven't really seen a card game. A lot of like when we look at like how a European meta, an Asian meta, the US meta for these different card games across history. Most of the time, in my experience, these card games are US exports or they're Asian exports, right? I can't recall a huge European TCG ever. I'm sure there is one. It's just not one. There's not something that's come across my desk, right?
Insane.
I wonder if we're going to see, because this game is sort of like their home field, and so much of the design team is from over there. I wonder if we're going to see maybe a little bit of a different level of interaction, like what you guys are saying about how cutthroat the US meta is versus the European meta.
I got a quick answer for you. You ready?
Yep.
No.
Oh, well, maybe.
the unfortunate part is we're Americans. We take over everything.
Oh my god.
We just do.
Oh
boy. When it comes to competition, America number one. So
well, at least we think we are.
I mean, you're gonna whatever the meta this will be, and if it's anything the size of what was France, right?
Yeah.
If it's anything of that size,
but that all of like European engagement is huge. So I think it started in France, but it's kind of a wildfire over there.
Yeah. So there is one American player in the top 10 in Board Game Arena. So right now, America's doing really bad. if we're winning at...
As Wookie was saying that, in my head, I was thinking, like, we need to put this man in front of Sylvain.
Sylvain's third. It's actually a German second.
Swordmaster, but I've never seen them play.
Hold on a second. We do got to give a shout out to this.
Right now, the number one ranked player in the world is
baby. Pluka. Let's go, Pluka.
Yeah.
He's number one right now as we're talking.
Yep.
Very nice.
Luca with
Very nice job, man.
9 points ahead of the German. So
I guess
keep it up.
he's doing is he heard Wookiee talking and he instantly queued up like 8 arena games so that he can make it through.
He's playing on his computer on 3 different screens. He's got 3 different cell phones. Like he's beating everybody with Waru.
Represent whatever it takes, right? Like
he has like 20 asynchronous Waru games going right now.
Yep. I managed to queue up against someone with a very similar name, just spelt differently. It was a very good game. I will just say they were not playing Waru, but I still lost. But it was a good game.
Was it PLOOKA? I think that's still him.
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying.
That's okay.
I had a good game with someone.
That's the dummy account. That's the test account.
That's his not playing Waru.
Turns out that somebody that's really good is still gonna beat you, whether they're on that top Metacritic or not.
It was still Ordis, mind you.
Yeah.
All right.
Number one.
Are we ready to move into? Are we in the marketplace?
Oh yeah, that's gonna be real quick. So in the future, we do have someone that'll be doing this segment. So we'll talk a little bit more about things you can do, where you can buy stuff. So this will be that section of our cast. But today we're going to introduce the quick search for just product costs, so people know and are aware. And we're going to see what an altered display is. I'm literally typing this right now, so that it's just live live-ish. TCG. We're going to see how much they cost, from like low end to high end. So right now, if I wanted to buy a Kickstarter box, the price is ranged from $152 to roughly $250. So that's what we're seeing. A week ago, it was hard to get them for the $150, but there's a couple of places that are selling them on sale, and that's for U.S. shipping. If I wanted a retail box right now, I'm seeing a range of 85 to 94.
Did you just say 85?
Yeah.
Send me a link, bro.
I actually don't know. The whole point of this is that you can search this for like 5 words.
Is that 85 from Gamers Guild?
Yep, Gamers Guild, and I believe that is also probably free shipping.
Which is crazy because Asmodee's Beyond the Gates, non-Kickstarter booster displays are 143 right now. What a huge difference.
The retail is somewhere between 85 and
wait a second.
Like 100 something.
I think I may be crazy, but I think I remember reading somewhere that they were offering discounts at the moment because they're trying to get lots and lots of product out for the tournament that they've got going on, or heading that direction, right? This is the same company,
or
that's them.
Crossing wires.
That is
or
them.
You can buy them from Walmart for $94.
Yep. Yes,
how does Walmart have altered product?
Walmart allows
this game is on fire.
But Walmart also allows third-party sellers on their website. Like, you can't go to Walmart and pick up a box of altered. Mm-hmm. It's just like Amazon. They'll allow a third party. Now, you take your chances, but,
Today I learned a thing.
But yeah, that is the market pulse of a sealed product right now. So we're at a pretty good, healthy range as far as getting things at a pretty good entry price. I do think most of these prices are going to go up at some point, especially for the Kickstarter, because the product there is going to start to dry up. A week ago, it was at like $220, $230, but now we're seeing some accessible ones. So if you want some Kickstarter product, I would buy those 152s pretty fast. That's a really good price. Technically,
we already know that like our European friends are suffering.
They're hurting. They are buying. If you can somehow ship, it is super expensive to ship to Europe. But if you can somehow get it there, they are paying like €230 per box of Kickstarter product. Because they're out of everything.
That was one of the things they discussed in the AMA, was that they were, at least Asmodee was sold out in Europe, France, Spain, and another third country, I think. Mm-hmm. So
shocker, Asmodee under-ordered on something. Weird.
But we still got it here, though.
Yeah.
And that is our market pulse.
All right. Moving into events. What can I play in this week? I got my cart up. Right, I'm ready to hit buy as soon as I talk to you guys. What can I play in?
So every Tuesday for the next couple weeks, we have the Tuesday Ace tournament going on. You can hop in, hop out. You get points based on just playing and for winning. And then in the 5th week, we're going to have a championship. We do have prizing. And last week, I introduced the bonus star. And it's a riff off of Mario Party, just giving out a random prize for something stupid. The first week was actually pretty cool. It was least used hero that placed the highest.
You did work to find that information too. So good job on you.
Yeah. So I have the next event decided. I won't tell you what it is because I don't want you to seek it out, but we will have that. And then right after is AWOL, which is on Wednesdays, hosted by Simon over in the AWOL server. And we have a lot of local events here in Texas. The Altered Corner hosts a bunch of metro areas for Texas. And if you join the Discord and look in the pins, we collect all of them. I think we've got a good collection in just about every major metro. DFW's getting up to like 3 or 4 stores running events every week. I know you guys in Houston are getting things really going.
Yep.
And then
Shout
San
out to
Antonio.
Julio.
Yeah. Aegis as well is a generous sponsor and provider of prizing for the Ace tournament and also helping with the local scene. And then in Austin and San Antonio, there are a couple things as well. So if you want more information on that, join the Discord.
Yeah.
And then before we talk the results real quick of Ace and AWOL, I know people are looking for tournaments at different times or different kinds of tournaments. If there is a type of tournament you're interested in, just let me know what and when, and I can look at getting set up. We tried to do a kind of wacky one-off with no Ordis, and just not enough people signed up. But I think in the future it would be cool to do something off of the norm and just kind of see how weird we can get. So let me know what you want to see. And Zach, are you ready to? What do you think?
Discuss some meta lines, or
Yeah. Well, what do you? So I think we don't have enough data yet from Ace, but it is already looking interesting. So I'm really excited on how it's going to start to look next week. But the winners for Ace this previous week, Sylvan was first, Pluka was second, and then for AWOL, Pluka took the first in a Waru versus Fen match against Jackman. But
I feel like we're hearing that Pluka name quite a bit.
Yeah.
hey, when you're top of the leaderboard, for
Yeah,
organized
what's going on,
play.
Luca? Second place? You're letting me down.
No, he was first.
Oh, I thought he said second.
Oh, Sylvain.
Second in Ace, which that was a hell of a match.
I was about to say I watched that game. He played out of his mind. That was just those were two titans clashing right there.
Taking second place though.
I had a shot. I was top 4. I couldn't finish.
Wait,
have we talked about?
Has the streak continued over to Altered?
Shut up.
There are analytics that Zach put together, and everyone can see them if you guys want to take a look at the Ace analytics. I did not paste the AWOL ones in, but those exist out there if you want to look up the AWOL ones for anyone listening.
Have we mentioned before we leave the event section? We ranted quite a bit about how awesome we all find BGA last week, but I can't remember if we talked about the tournament finder specifically. Did we mention it? Okay, so that's if you're out there and you want to play in a tournament and your stores haven't started up and everything else, go to BGA, scroll down, and there's just a feed of tournaments that people are running all the time that you can just register for. You just hop in.
Yeah.
And then you can do these things that we're talking about with Ace and with AWOL. It's not just us, right? Like there are so many tournaments out there being run that you can just hop into in whatever time slot works for you on whatever day. And if there isn't one yet, make one. You'll have random people join. It'll be fine.
Ooh, there's actually one on October 26th that already has 145 people.
Yeah, it's
good. Wait, time allotted to each player 7 days?
It's probably an asynchronous tournament.
It's not real time. It's turn based.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird for a tournament. I was gonna say, should we jump in? But
I'm not much of an async player myself, but I do think it's awesome that is a thing that you can do.
Yeah, that's wild.
I don't really play anything asynchronously. I know it's on BGA and it's great and all that, but not my bag.
5 days later, you finish one match. I mean, playing against Waru, think about like how long that would feel.
I tried to do that in the Game of Thrones board game a long time ago, and I was like, nah, I can't. This is rough. It's
not for you.
No, like because by the time it's your turn again, you're like, basically you have to dissect a board entirely from new every time because it's a long time. Which that would be easy in Altered, of course, because it's just glance at the tug of war match. You're like, oh, I need to play this card, but or not play this card, as we discussed earlier.
Full circle.
Yeah.
You mentioned tug of war too. I think that's going to stick with you.
Mm-hmm. No, it's good. It's a good analogy. Very spot on.
The stats. Was there anything that jumped out to you, Zach, that you wanted to mention? You took the time to set it all up today and make some
so
pretty
colorful.
I have not shared them.
Those colors came automatic with Google Sheets, so I didn't do anything with that. But I mean, nothing overly surprising, right? Like at least as far as like our 38 competitors that actually showed up, we had top players top showing. Nope.
There's like if there's something surprising though. Like,
no, I mean
there are. Well, no, there's something super surprising because we literally just talked about the North American meta, and there are some players in here that weren't North American. There were a few that weren't. True. Most of them are though, and there are only 4 Waru players in these 38. Like that
made top 8 too.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, that's true. Top 8. So our top 8 was 2 Fen, 1 Kojo, 1 Navenka, somehow, 2 Sig, and 2 Waru. So, like, Waru had a 50% conversion, which is still bonkers, right? Like, that's crazy. But yeah, that is pretty interesting overall. Technically, Navenka had a 50% conversion rate, too.
Yeah, it's only 2 players playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, based on this and everything we've talked about at the other tournaments, I think the ones to watch that are going to start coming up are Kojo and Fen. I mean, we thought it was going to be Traced, but I don't know. This week that has not been the case.
Trace struggles so
Trace cannot beat Robin Hood. Like, sleeping Robin Hood is like, I beat you, Trace. Go pay double mana for all your cards. Like, it sucks.
I will say one thing that did, like you were saying, like the North American meta, like if you look at the faction breakdown, Muna only being at 5.3%, and then like Ordis being at 26, like that is kind of what we're expecting. The 26 for Bravos, right? Like it definitely is not
that is still kind of high for Bravos in my opinion.
Bravos has been for sure struggling. People really like Bravos, and we've heard, like Material mentioned last week, we have a player in Texas that's really trying to push Kojo and was able to climb pretty high up onto the leaderboard before. Like there were some setbacks, but I think it's a consistency problem. Like they have some great tools, but they're more susceptible to disruption.
Everything. They're
Yeah.
susceptible to everything.
Yeah, I brought my Basira deck and lost round 1, so yeah.
Like just data here, right? 10 Bravos entered, 1 of them made top 8.
Ogre like, progress. I made it past round 1. That's good, right?
Yeah, okay. That's 3 points. 3 points for you.
one of the big dogs stomped me out though, right? Who did I play? Did I play Sylvain or did I play Pluka? I played somebody that just absolutely stomped a mud hole in me.
Well, it happens. But you got Redemption Day Tuesday. And again, like the Aegis Creative Company is sponsoring this for us. We have real pricing. The whole dang event's free. At the end of it, somebody's going to get, what is this? Top prize for winning everything is 12 retail booster packs and 4 Kickstarter booster packs. All for an event you didn't pay jack for. So
yeah, I really like the tournament setup that you came up with. Do you want to explain that real quick? Because I think it's super cool.
Yeah, so basically, we found the single elimination that we tested for season day 0. Finishes at about an hour and a half, 2 hours. This whole thing, every best of one elimination finishes pretty quick. So what we're using that is we're going to award the top 2 players of the 6 p.m. Central Time event. It caps out at, what do we put the cap at? 64 players, I think.
Yes.
And the top 2 players will automatically get an invite to the championship. And the top player gets a unique foiler for the weekly. And the second place gets a rare foiler. And everyone else accrues points. So if you show up and play at least one game, win or lose, you're going to get 2 points as far as your league score. And then you get an additional point for every single win you accrue, no matter how far you go. So in this case, even the winners were able to get points, even though they're already in the championship. I'll talk about why they would need points later. So like Sylvain won. He has 8 points. Pluka came in second. Pluka has 7 points. And then me and Evron came in third and fourth, or top 4. We both have 6 points. So technically we are the third and fourth players, but we don't have an invite to the championship. We're going to run 4 of these, which means that 8 people will be in the tournament, which is going to be a top 16 event. And then there'll obviously be 8 spots, possibly less if we get back-to-back winners. Those remaining spots to fill the top 16 will literally go in order based on the top players, based on their points from accruing each week. If there's some kind of tie, I have some ways to break the tiebreakers as far as that goes. But that is how we'll fill that bracket. And then that top 16 week, you'll get to play for the top. All the top 8 will get pricing. So as long as you win one game, that final top 16 event, you will one match. You will then be in the pricing for the whole thing. And Aegis has helped us out with a whole box. I threw in some of the Kickstarter product that I have, that Zach and me have.
I think I just had an epiphany. I want in on this. So here's the Ogre prize. I want to put a bounty down to the player who slays the most Waru, right? Whoever you are, whoever has the most wins against Waru specifically. Can we get those numbers before I say this?
Yes.
Okay. Whoever slays the most
not
Warus,
easy, and Zach and Cole will be doing this, not me. But it is
why are you answering yes then for Cole and I?
Because he's asking if it can be done.
It's live and on air, so now we're trapped, right, guys?
Yes,
right.
That's right.
I will do it for you, Ogre.
You are the best. Whoever slays the most Waru, I am going to give you a Waru promo.
Actually, really easy.
The 2024 Waru promo.
Oh, nice! There you go. You get their bounty, their head.
It's exactly right. So whoever wins the most, and if U.S. base, I'll ship it to you if you want. I have sent one card to France in a regular postmarked envelope. I'll do it for you if you win, if you really want, but I'd prefer just digital. But you let me know.
Yeah. As with everything international, I'm saying is digital, unless you want to pay for the extensive amounts of money that is the shipping to Europe.
Yeah. One good point on the tournament, as you mentioned, 2 players have already been seeded into the championship. Unless I am mistaken, they are more than welcome to keep playing in each week.
Yes, they can.
And I think that's good for competitive growth and learning. If all of the top players drop out every time, you're not going to ever be able to beat them. So, Yeah.
Well, and the final seeding will be based on the score. So, like, if you are if you have the most points in the event and are one of the top 8, you will be the number 1 seed, and you will, like any actual true tournament, you will be facing the number 16 seed, which means you should have some level of advantage there. It's a tournament, is what it is. I mean, got to beat the people anyway. So if you come in at seed 16. You're probably facing at this point Sylvain or Pluka, so good luck. Bring a Waru killer, if that is a thing. I guess it's just another Waru deck. I don't know.
Bring your own Waru deck. Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like, I just bring the bigger bazooka.
I believe the old saying is, if you can't beat them, join them.
Yep.
Ever.
There you go. All right, is that going to close us out for the week?
We have Zach. Oh yeah. Did you say is that or is that Zach?
No. Is that Zach?
Hi, Zach. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. How about you?
Did we miss meta lines this week?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad, Zach. I wasn't trying to skip you. I was
all that
trying to
event
skip
stuff
you.
got in there.
Plus you had some little dropout with internet.
I don't know. That was weird. I think my internet just went crazy. We're having some weird windstorms here in Wisconsin. So that always messes with my internet from time to time. But go ahead. What's the meta line?
So the meta line that I'm going to discuss this week is, of course, Waru, because that is the meta, and that is what I'm playing right now. One of my favorite opening turns, either on the play or off the play, it doesn't matter, is having Bountiful Meadow and Ortis Attorney. So I'll explain those couple things, especially if you're new. Let's talk about some of those cards. So Bountiful Meadow.
You're going to see it played against you. There's no way.
Guaranteed.
This is a thing.
Bountiful Meadow. 2 cost from hand, 2 cost from reserve. You're not likely going to play it from reserve because it's not going to go there unless somebody does something to it. But it allows you to landmark its permanent. It is going to allow you to exhaust it, and the next bureaucrat that you play during that turn costs 1 less. So a very good thing to do is to start off with that. You're likely going to be losing a lane your first turn. You're going to likely get double move your first turn. Yeah, as played with Waru, because of the second card that you're probably going to play, or the first, depending on what you're getting with your hand. In this case, we're looking at the Ortis Attorney. The rare version, not the common. So 2 costs from hand, 2 costs from reserve, 2 power all the way down. And the nice thing about the Attorney is likely you're going to sleep it for a couple of reasons. I'll explain in a second. But if the expedition fails to move forward during dusk, you draw a card. Waru's ability, as you may or may not know, is when you play a bureaucrat, which the Ortis Attorney is, you can make it gain a sleep, which doesn't count as statistics during the dusk when you go to move, when you compare, but that's not important at this first turn. What's important is that you're going to draw a card before your turn ends. Not only that, but you have Bountiful Meadow online for later turns. And so why is that good? Well, one thing we've already discussed is draw potential in this game is huge, right? We've been over a few different uniques about the draw power cards, but like the Attorney getting a card to draw by giving up the 2 lanes, you're getting 1 extra card that your opponent likely didn't have. Number 2, the second part of the first part of Waru's ability is at noon, if you control one of your bureaucrats, you create an Ortis recruit 1/1/1 soldier in a target expedition. So not only did you get double move that first turn, but you now have yourself set up with a unit on the board, a card on the board. That was a very different game that I was thinking about. You have a card on the board, 2/2/2, and you get to place a 1/1/1 without having to pay anything because of the last turn that you did. And you have Meadow online, so you can start discounting all of your cards by 1, at least 1, right? You're probably going to get a second Meadow.
Cards.
Yeah, well, yes, a good chunk of your all of your bureaucrats that you play is so good. The fact that it gives you draw, it gives you presence on the board for next turn, and it creates another. It basically allows you to have 3/3/3 spread out either amongst the 2 expeditions or on 1. Starting off your turn like that, it's really good. And you can just go from there. And that's why it is this week's Meta Line of the Week.
For sure. I do like all the explanation. Pretty solid.
It's a good one. It ties into the why I suck at Altered like very nicely. Because it highlights all those things about most decks in Altered not being able to build board state in the same way that Waru is, but here you've given an example of a card that's going to give you a resource advantage over the other guy, right?
And set you up to start winning immediately.
Yeah, you're doing all of the things necessary, but you're also doing the thing we talked about where like you just drop the rope and step away for a turn.
Yeah, yep.
To catch your breath. Like you don't.
And
you don't
Waru
need
does
it.
that
It's
more
fine.
than any other hero.
I was
It
gonna
can
say-
even do that mid game. There's entire turns Waru will take in mid game, which like you would expect to be a dangerous time to get double pushed. But I have totally done it. I've gone to where like I have 6 mana available, and literally everything I played, I slept and let them double push, and then I just crushed them because it's just crazy.
It was definitely hard at first. Like when you're thinking about the game, right? It's a race, as you described it. It's a tug of war each round, and you're giving up 2 spots that first round. It's hard to kind of comprehend that at first, but when you realize what it's doing for your later turns, you do make that decision sometimes, especially playing Waru, right? Like, and other ones, as you were saying, Ogre. You have to know when to allow that double move, when to contend, and when to push, and that will get you either winning better games or still stuck in that rut. So,
I guess while we're here, we should actually talk about like what this means when you're playing against Waru.
concede. That's what it means.
No.
I'm just
So like,
kidding.
there's a lot of choices that are made when you get your clutch of 6 at the very beginning of the game, and there's a lot of decks in this game that will rely on certain setups, and then they might see those setups in their hand, and of course they go for it. Playing against Waru is a little bit different. Like Waru has to set up turn 1. If they don't set up turn 1, there's generally some other reason for that. They just got a bad draw, whatever. But they are looking to do not exactly what Zach just said, but very similar in almost all cases. So you need to take advantage of that off of your first opening hand. If you have 2 creatures, you can pay with 3 or less mana. You do need to do that. Every single lane counts. If you are only 1 lane pushing against Waru on your first turn, you are already losing that game. And that seemed like a good turn for most. I play my Muna plays their 3 mana Dracania, and they feel good about that turn 1 because that's just what they do half the time. Like, that's not good. Like, you need to understand that against Waru. If you did not double push them on turn 1, you got the only lane that was going to be easy for you. You missed one of the rare opportunities that was going to be easy for you for the rest of the whole damn game.
Yeah, it's gonna put you behind for sure. When you're like, oh, I'm already ahead by 1. No, you're already behind. Is what the point is.
Momentum's huge. Waru can afford to take those breaks.
Mm-hmm.
You can't when you're playing into Waru.
Mm-hmm.
Every turn you have to be scrabbling because the distance between Waru's expeditions is an illusion. Like
it is true. Yeah. Like turn 3 or day 3, they could actually be in their starting point and actually be set up to absolutely crush you.
Yeah, they might be the only deck in the format that's like placing that is legitimately playing the old school, like I have to take time to build things up.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I've hit that that critical mass, you can't stop the snowball. Like it's rough.
Yeah.
So
what I'm saying is hard. Like what I'm saying does mean there are going to be scenarios where you should be mana your unique or possibly mana some kind of landmark that you're normally relying on to make sure that you can play a 1 and a 2. Because ideally, like your day 2, you also want to be playing a creature that can push or at least effectively push with the creatures that are sliding down to reserve. Like you need to be thinking really, really hard about what turn 1 and turn 2 look like when you're facing Waru, because in most games you're not facing the tax hit on turn 2. That's like your best window to not be getting your ass kicked.
Plan those expeditions, people.
Yes. Win the tug of war early. That way you at least have a chance to weather the storm that is coming. They draw a lot. Robin Hood is coming. He is hunting your butt.
They say bureaucracy and paperwork, man. You know it's coming down the line, so just be prepared to be buried.
Is that the old death and taxes?
Yep.
Like, should I insert drum roll like the doom here, like that?
Yeah, that's exactly what they do, and it's all because of Robin Hood.
All right. Well, I mean, still kind of outside looking in for me. I sniff bans. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know what they've said about, or how they feel about banning certain cards. But
I don't think. I think what we said just earlier is going like that is my belief as far as what's going to happen. I think that would actually add a lot of parity to the current meta. I think Turbo would actually be Trist a very viable immediately. Because right now, like I tested around Trist. It is super fun to play. It's a really cool hero, but it is unplayable into Waru.
I think they're gonna double down and just put Anchored on Robin Hood, just so it's like that much more painful. So
there's a whole lot of conversation about it. Who knows what's going to happen? I will say that I immediately become skeptical. Anybody says that they don't think a card game should have bans ever, because I just think that's impossible. Like, people are fallible, and designers are people, and that means you're going to get things that make the game unhealthy. And I think that it's probably not going to be bans this time around, because we're very early and they're going to want to stretch it as far as they can.
I think they should do everything in their power to not ban a card. Like, I believe that strongly. I think there is a solution for this specific card.
I mean, especially in a game like this, right, where you can very easily make erratas. Right, like this is so easy to errata a card, change it, and then since it's print on demand, right?
Yep,
you can ship it out.
Will be soon.
It will be what you guys said. What, December, January?
I mean, I don't think we have a date yet. I think they mentioned they're probably still working on it, or it should be soon. But I think just everyone expects it. Yeah, expects it by end of year.
Well, Q4 would be the end of the year. But I mean, either way, like this is probably the easiest way to ever do anything ever. Like, other card games can't do that, right? Magic can't just be like, well, we're errataing this card, and we're gonna ship everybody new ones. This game has the ability. They have the technology. They can do it. So,
and even as the big Ortis faction hater, I don't think they should ban Robin Hood.
I think they're just going to ban the whole faction.
I mean,
they just need to edit one word, and it's still good. Yeah. It's still playable, and I like right now. Like I said, I play all of the factions. Right, that's the thing I do. Like, I go through, I play the one that looks the most fun, and for me, that means the most competitive. And I think they actually did a absolutely brilliant job designing this game, because currently, the only thing that's putting one faction significantly above the other five is not Waru. It's the one single word on one single iteration of one card. Like, that is amazing. Like, this is not an easy game to design. The fact that they're that close right now is like, that's mad props to them.
I'm not fully behind that, but I'm close enough to it that we can hang out in the same room. And
we'll talk about the Ortis uniques in the future. That's a whole different topic.
Yeah, I'll send you the clip of Turn Inside Out from the newest Magic set, and then we can talk. I'm on Big Z's side there. I think it's a problem, but it is a very little problem compared to other card games I've played.
Oh,
even Star Wars Unlimited.
That's not the part I don't agree with. That's
it's the Ortis overarching.
I think there's some other dials that are turned a bit far, but I do agree that, like, Robin Hood is egregious for two reasons. It's super powerful, and it's a super negative play experience. And anytime you have those two things combined, it can make things rough.
Yeah, the NPE is a big North American card gaming topic. Interesting that they didn't use those specific terms, because that is a card gaming thing. But it's France, so I'm not sure what their terminology is. But negative play experiences in PE.
They kind of did. Like they mentioned that they felt that it created a very unfun environment.
Yeah. Like I heard those words. I was actually expecting to hear that that abbreviation.
Blue creating an unfun play
thing.
environment.
Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah. Which is what happened in Keyforge early on. They addressed some cards, one of them correctly, one of them incorrectly. But I mean, Magic has done it forever. There's always been restricted.
Blue's always been a little bitch in Magic. I mean, no matter what you do it, like nobody wants to play against the blue player. FYI, I'm the blue player, but I'm going pink this time around because I look good in pink.
Fenn's good. People tell me Davenka's fun. They can have their opinion. It's fine.
Can they?
Yeah.
If I know anything about you, people are not allowed to have. You're allowed to have an opinion, and then you're allowed to be wrong.
Play that hero. I just won't. But I know I will lose a game at some point to Davenka and not be happy about why.
Fair enough. I do believe this closes us out for the night.
Yeah.
Episode 2 in the books. Thank you everyone in the chat for joining us tonight. Greatly do appreciate it. And for everybody listening out there in podcast land, we'll see y'all next week.